How about that?
Hey.
Bedspring Kiss, not just a track, but a fully fledged music video as well. Because if you ask Fernando to do something, he will over-deliver and put certainly me to shame, but certainly up my game for everything else that I do with regards to Jellyfest. So I want to thank Fernando. And with me is that very same, very ticklish, very handsome Fernando Perdomo. Hello.
My pleasure. That was a lot of fun to put together. And yeah, there was a lot of firsts on that recording, and I had a lot of fun making it. And I love being pushed. I love being dared. And this was a really cool challenge that came out really awesome, I think.
Is it a song that you'd always wanted to do something with? Because it wasn't exactly the most obvious song to choose. And it's a song that Jellyfish never played live either. So,
well, yes, maybe it was me not wanting to be disappointed because, like, for example, recently there was a big Harry Nilsson thing, and I had they had sent out a list, and I was excited to do one, and then all of a sudden, oh, sorry, we didn't update the list. Somebody's doing one already, so I ended up doing Me and My Arrow as well. So I didn't want to go for something that everyone's going to go for, because everyone's going to want to do That Is Why. Everyone's going to want to do New Mistake. Everyone's going to want to do Joining a Fan Club. So I was like, okay, Bedspring Kiss, that one just might be mine. And that was a lot of fun. And it's such a cool song. It's a bossa nova. It's got Brian Wilson in it. It's got it's definitely a very interesting chordal progression, and I wanted to explore that, and also explore the fact that the song is a little bit nuts. So I think I gave the song a dose of acid and had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I talk about this during a lot of performances during Jellyfest, but there's certain pieces of Jellyfish songs that I find incredibly satisfying. And when the line "Jimmy, watch the love the bloodstains from his clothes," how it goes into that chorus with that the major chord and resolves and everything, it's just it's wonderful. It really is.
That song is amazing, and it's a great headphone song too. And I wanted to explore some sonic stuff with that one, and I had a lot of fun. Basically, I got a deal with Mellotron this year, and they sent me one of their Mellotron M4000 micros, and it's such an interesting box because it's incredibly powerful and incredibly limited at the same time. So I thought, it'll be a lot of fun to do songs where everything that's backing my vocal is Mellotron. Including, and I had a lot of fun with that, getting all these different sounds out of it. And there's one of the most magical things about a Mellotron, whether it's a real one or the new ones, is it has this crazy pitch knob where it slows down the tape. And it really, I overuse it. So it's kind of like a fun whammy bar for the keyboard, and it really throws you off for a second. You're like, what just happened? So even the most tame like piano or vibraphone sound could just go off the rails at any minute. So that's a lot of fun. When I was at Ardent Studios in Memphis, I used Big Star's Mellotron. And I fell in love with it because it's not perfectly serviced. So I'd be tracking a track and all of a sudden it would just go completely off the rails and we'd have to hit stop. And I kept some of that stuff. And it was funny because I was using it one day and Jody Stevens walked in and he's like, "Oh, is the Mellotron working again?" I'm like, 50-50. But that was part of the thing, I remember reading an interview with Jason Faulkner, Guitar Player Magazine, about why he likes playing crappy guitars, especially Fender Mustangs and all that stuff. He's like, you have to fight them. And I love that concept because, there's certain guitars that play like $1 million, Les Pauls, PRSs, and, they have perfect necks and their strings are super skinny and they stay in tune, but what's the fun in that? There's a certain amount of fear involved when you're using these instruments because they could make you look like a complete noob in any minute. So that's a lot of fun. And I remember that, I play a Fender Mustang 85% of the time. And that issue of Guitar Player Magazine with Jason was one of the reasons I do. And then, of course, Todd Rundgren also used them with a similar situation because he definitely was fighting him all the time. But that's kind of a cool thing. I love there's so aspects to what Jellyfish is because we're so lucky that, see, a lot of our favorite bands were around pre the internet, pre MTV, pre video cameras, pre-cell phones, and we didn't get to see them as people. And if there's one thing about Jellyfish, starting with their home video of them hanging out at McDonald's, they always wanted to show off that they were real people with great wardrobe, but real people. And if there's anything, now being friends with guys like Raj and Jason and Tim and Jack Joseph Puig and stuff, they're real people, which is really awesome, especially Chris Manning too. He's also very real because unlike the other guys in the band, he's no longer a rock star. He's just a normal dude. And it's pretty awesome that these normal people created such superhero music. And that's a good word to describe Jellyfishes. It's superhuman superhero music.
It is. And speaking of, the members of the band and, the family of Andy who have been very supportive. Andy he knows about the group and he is supportive from afar and all that kind of thing. It just blows my mind that I've been able to make contact with them and become, I would say, friends. I know that's kind of an assumption to make, but they have been very generous with their time, as you see on Jellyfest. The things that they've been able to contribute and give me their time and understand that I consider this important. But the fact that they know me enough to know that I consider something important enough that that they are happy to be involved with, it blows my mind all the time.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that Andy is still making great music as Marshmello, Deadmau5, and Buckethead for the last 15 years. Under these, it's wonderful. He can just put on these masks, and he's a shredder guitar player, and now he's Marshmello. Wait, did I just give that away? That he might be Marshmello? Because that's the thing, is I've been talking about this lately, and it's like, who is this Marshmello person? Could he be like a sexual predator that had to put on a mask to be able to continue to make music? Could he be Andy Kaufman or Andy Sturmer?
He could be on The Masked Singer. Could you imagine? Dressed as
well, that's the thing, is that no one would guess who it is. It'd be like, that voice doesn't sound familiar, because all the people on The Masked Singer are noobs anyway. So, they couldn't even tell that it was Chaka Khan at one point, So that made me mad.
We stole that in the UK, and we don't do that kind of stuff as well as America. We don't do overblown ridiculousness as well as that.
Yeah, sorry, America's kind of still crap. Sorry, we're secondhand. I
like junk food though, so junk food TV.
That's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you, besides the guys in the band who have been lucky enough to be in contact with specifically for this, you've worked with a fair few members of the band.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you, when did you first make contact? Was it because of, was it through Chris, and was it because of the Emmett Rhodes stuff? Or?
No, I actually was the first to make contact with Jason, being a mega fan at South by Southwest in 2005. When was Bliss Descending? 2005, right?
Oh, good Lord. People are gonna kill me for that. I think it's around then. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Bliss Descending came out, and he did a show at South by Southwest. He played solo, and people talked over him, and it was really maddening. But I took a picture with him. I need to find it somewhere. And we hung out after the show a little bit. And, I had just discovered Emmett Rhodes, and I mentioned him, and, we talked about a bunch of stuff, and we didn't really keep in touch. So then I started playing with Chris Price with his band Price, with his brothers. He had a band with two of his brothers, Corey and Mike.
Yeah.
And they needed a lead guitar player for the auditions for record labels. And I played guitar with them. And this is a great story. We did an audition at Ocean Way Studios. And it was one of those auditions you always hear about, where a band sets up, there's a couch, and three people sit down, and you have to play for three guys. And we played our hearts out. And one of the guys looked familiar. And then they introduced themselves. The first guy was Ron Fair, who was the president of Geffen. The second guy was Tom Panunzio, who's a famous producer who worked with Ozzy Osbourne. And the next guy says, "My name is Jack." And I'm like, "You're Jack Joseph Puig." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Jellyfish." He's like, "Whoa." So we started talking. And he told me, in the first 10 minutes, he told me some incredible stories. And then he looked at my Mustang and he's like, "You make that thing sound great." I'm like, "Todd Rundgren, Jason Faulkner." And he's like, "We're going to get along." We started talking about Todd Rundgren. And we got along a little too well, because Price's manager took me aside and said, "Stop talking to Jack." He's like, "Yeah, but that's a whole other thing." So I was just the invited lead guitar player, sideman. But when they got signed to Geffen, my mom got sick, and I decided to go back to Miami and not be in the band. And they made a record with Jack Joseph Puig. They started making records with different people to try to see who was going to produce this Geffen record. I recommended Jason, and we got in touch with Jason, and I had lunch with Jason to see if he'd be interested in producing Price. He was, but the label wasn't really interested in Jason. so it never happened. But Jason got to hear Chris, and that's when the Jason-Chris connection happened. Which, a few years later, Price got shelved, which happens. Sadly, it happens all the time with record labels, is that, they sign artists and they end up shelving them because they don't have the money to properly, promote them.
Yeah. So
Chris, I move out to LA. Chris takes me out to lunch and says, we're going to make an Emmett Rhodes record. Who should be in the band? And I said, Jason Faulkner, Roger Manning. I don't know where Tim is, but definitely.
Did you say Andy at the time, or?
Well, no.
Or were you realistic even back then?
I was being realistic. I knew Andy was busy DJing as Deadmau5, so whatever. So we put together the band. Jason was only available for certain sessions, so the main guitar player was Taylor Locke. I'm on bass, Joe Siders on drums, Roger Manning on keys.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the day we started recording with Emmett Rhodes, and this huge road case shows up, and it's the Jellyfish Wurlitzer, and it's like, and the clavinet, and it's like, oh my God, this is happening. And the day that we recorded with Jason was only available for one session, was the greatest guitar lesson I've ever gotten. In tone, in the way that he listens and figures out what to do. It was absolutely mind-blowing to watch Jason, as close as I am to my computer, it's like just watching him create. And he was absolutely amazing. And Roger was amazing. The whole process was great. John Bryan played on the track. Unfortunately, he did his track at a studio, so I never got to see what he used or got to see how he works.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it's, any less genius than what Jason does.
I've heard that's what working with Andy is like, that you never get to see him. It's all remote, from everyone that I've spoken to who's worked with him.
But it's great because it's like he's the mysterious Andy Sturmer, which is great. Maybe one day he will just write a book or something. I don't know. We'll see. It turns out that he's like produced like all these hits that we don't know. Turned out he's Mutt Lange or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was incredible working with them with Emmett. I've gotten to work with Roger. On a few other things. I played on a few tracks that are unreleased from Roger. Roger has a nice backlog of stuff that needs to come out.
It does need to come out. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. But look, that's the beautiful thing is that, there's no rules these days. So people are putting out stuff like Glamping, which is 3 songs, so it's like, it's interesting to see the variety of the releases that are coming out where people are still putting out 74-minute albums. And they're also putting out two-song singles and stuff. So it's really interesting. But I've gotten to work with Roger a couple times since. He's played on a few things that I'm working on. Ken Sharp and I are working with a guy named Jefferson Black. And Roger played an incredible piano part on a song that's absolutely cool. Very, very Elton. Very, very, just incredible. And I've gotten to work with Roger a few times. I just worked with Bird Streets, which Jason produced their first record. Yeah. And their new album is going to have, it's a band, but it's really John Bordur. And the new album is going to have multiple producers, and I'm producing a couple tracks, and Jason's producing a couple tracks. So, amazing. It's kind of like a cool thing because I made a joke with John. I said, I'm what you get when you buy Jason Faulkner on Wish.
It's interesting. You say that the label weren't interested in Jason around that 2005 period because then he just appeared on Chaos and Creation in the Backyard.
Correct.
It's insane. Like
as a producer.
Oh, okay.
They wanted hit guys, hit makers. Right. So Price did an album with John Fields. Price did an album with Abraham Laboriel Jr., speaking of McCartney. And the one that they almost came out was Tony Berg. And Tony Berg was fresh off of Weezer, The Like, Phantom Planet. So, and that's a great record. But, Chris has made better records since alone. Yeah. The sound of Price. Basically, Price was supposed to be Geffen's like Kings of Leon. Similar situation, retro, brothers, rock and roll, soulful singer. And what Chris has done since is created his own thing. And Dalmatian and Stop Talking and the album he made on his iPhone are some of the best records that have come out in the last 20 years. And you got to check them out. Chris Price. We grew up actually 20 blocks away from each other in Miami Beach. He grew up on 52nd and Indian Creek, and I grew up on 30th and Sheridan. So, it's really interesting. But I'm a little older than him. He's about 6 years younger than me. So, but I met him for the first time when I visited my old high school music program, and he was there. And when I met him, he was a little more into hip hop, which is fun.
Really? Wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm waiting for some kind of spin-off into rap or something from Chris. I can't imagine it.
Well, yeah, that's Chris's secret weapon is that he's actually a really good rapper. But nobody needs to know.
I've got to say, I mean, I've told Chris this, that I don't think an album has immediately hooked me as much as Homesick did after the first listen. And I had to immediately reach out to him. And he has written 2 songs that have made me cry. Father to the Boyfriend?
That's your boyfriend?
No, Father to the Man and I'll Follow Her Anywhere. And Angels of Buena Vista as well, which you co-wrote.
Hey, we co-wrote that one, actually.
Beautiful song.
Co-wrote that in a songwriting game. We were doing a songwriting game at the house where we had to write a song in 15 minutes. And that was something we wrote together that was really cool. My 2 picks are That's Your Boyfriend and Man Down, which...
Yeah.
Man Down, I feel, is like the lost Robert Lamb Chicago song. It's an incredible tune.
The arrangement for that is possibly my favorite arrangement of a Chris song. That's
some of the best bass playing I've ever done. And it's an incredible track. And hopefully, the good news is he's working on a new record. And I am 100% sure it's going to come out before Jason's.
Can you give him a kick up the bum to include Spam on the album?
Of course. That's a great song. It's really funny. When I first moved to LA, I moved to LA in 2012. I ran into Jason and said, I want to be your bass player. And he says, I got to finish the record first. And I'm like, well, how's it going? He's like, I'm almost halfway there. This was 2012. So
I've interviewed Jason for Jellyfest, and he performs a song as well, which I'll tell you what it is once we stop recording. Everyone will know once Jellyfest is up by this point. But he has said that now, because the album's taken so long, he's got a whole new set of songs because he feels that he has moved on from the previous songs.
That's my fear. I'm actually in the process right now of talking to my label because I'm pretty much done with Out to C4. And they're like, well, we'd rather release it like in February. I'm like, February? How about November? Because by February, I'm going to have like a whole new album. It's interesting. It's like one of the best things about music these days is that you write a song, you record the song, you can put it on Bandcamp the same day.
Yeah.
While the guitar strings are the same ones on your guitar, while you have the same clothes you were wearing while you made the song, it could still be on. And that's the thing, is that the big difference between the way things were in the past and now is distribution. Because, man, the old thing was you make an album. Recently I've really gotten into the Spin Doctors again.
Nice.
And how about this for crazy? Pocket Full of Kryptonite was recorded in 1989. It was released in 1990 and didn't hit until 92. Two Princes was the third single, and it hit in 93.
Wow.
A 4-year-old recording. Say in a similar but with different fashion, I Want to Be 500 Miles by Proclaimers was recorded and released in 87 and wasn't a hit until 96 because of Betty and June.
Wow.
Or 94.
Was it that late on? Wow.
Yes. So it's a you know what? I always tell this to my clients. Your song is only as old as its newest fan.
Hmm.
I mean, it happens all the time where an old song could suddenly become a hit, and you got to be ready for that. So, but that's the thing, is that when you're prolific like Jason, yes, by the time he's done with this album, he will have 3 other albums written. Same thing goes with Chris. I put out stuff immediately unless it's stuff that I do through a label, and then there's a process because they need to get the promotion ready, they need to produce the records. It takes a while, but
you do so much. You do so much, but you also do a lot of session work. I mean, you have been so generous to me and to guys like Danny Henry and those who also could do with a somewhat of a break because you believe in what they do. And it's been amazing to see your progression as well, because I've known you for a good few years now, and where you're at now is just, I mean, I don't think I know a musician who deserves more where they're at than yourself. And
I have an equal amount of joy producing other people's music than I do my own. I guess that is the influence of guys like Todd Rundgren, John Bryan, Jason Faulkner, that make their own records, but also produce other people. And, there's a real joy to working with artists that are really young, like Danny Henry, and helping them achieve the sound that they have in their head, even though that they don't have the means to do it on their own. And it's a lot of fun because then we get to get horns and strings and there's a great circuit of people out here that are amazing and very affordable that do incredible top-notch work. And I've had a lot of fun producing records, and then also gives me the freedom too to put out whatever I want to put out. And something really interesting has happened is that when I first met you, I was putting out a lot of singing albums. I was writing pop songs. I was putting out stuff like Girl Veruca Collection, Smile, Home, making albums that were typical. I started making instrumental music, and I got a record deal through Cherry Red. That's the opposite. It's like, oh, okay, you should dumb down your music and then you'll get a record deal. I ended up getting a record deal doing progressive rock, instrumental progressive rock. And now I just got my second one through an album I just did with famous drummer Carmine Appice. Also instrumental, and signed with Cleopatra. So, that's the weird thing about the music industry these days, is that when Price was getting a record deal, it was still operating like they were still a multi-million-dollar conglomerate, but really they were hemorrhaging money because of Napster and because of streaming and everything. And the labels that are doing the best work right now when it comes to signing and releasing music are niche labels like Cherry Red, like Cleopatra, like Esoteric, and all these little labels that put out music that's directly delivered to genre markets like progressive rock, like Americana, like new wave, new age, retro. It's easier to get a record deal these days if you're really weird, as opposed to, say you're a 19-year-old artist that wants to be the next Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
That takes millions and millions of dollars to become the next Ariana Grande. You could be broke and still get music heard worldwide if you're in a niche market. And there's nothing more niche than Jellyfish and power pop and one-man band music and symphonic pop and art pop. Speaking of, when's the next Toxic Melons album coming out?
Well, I wanted to say, I probably grew up wanting to be a musician in probably the worst possible decade, the 2000 to 2010, when there were so many things that I thought would be the thing that would be able to push me forward in terms of being it was almost like being a signed artist was everything. And now in terms of that, I think it was probably putting all my eggs in one basket and not doing it properly, and looking at social media and thinking, oh, now I have a platform to show my stuff, so it'll get magically discovered at some point. Like you kind of led down a lot of sort of garden paths, I think, in terms of how things presented themselves. And obviously the 2010, record sales were dropping off, illegal downloads were happening too much. I don't think anyone could have predicted where we are now, but I think where we are now, we can probably predict more where we're going to be, say, 5 years from now in terms of technological advances. And I mean, there are more download sales now than there have ever been in terms of physical sales. But there are also a lot more songs out there as well. But that is, you can find what you want to do now because there are so many, like you say, more niches in what you can do and still make a success of it. When I was at college, it was like, you must be a signed artist and that is your only way of showing that you're a success, which I hated that because maybe you want to be a producer or a sound man or you want to do session work and stuff like that, but they just, never really forgive my college and university for how they saw what it took to be a success as a musician. And I think I wasted a lot of time, but part of the reason why I'm so grateful for this group is because I've been able to meet so many high-level musicians that have helped me. Like, I do not have the means to be able to make the albums that I want to make in my head. But guys like yourself and Chris Price and Linus of Hollywood and Taylor Locke and so many more have really allowed me to be able to do that. And that's because of this group and because of Jellyfish. And there will be more. There will be more Toxic Melons music. So I'm very excited.
Great. Can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to play on it.
That's the very long-winded answer to your very short question there. But I can't stress enough how important this group has been for me. And the story that I love to tell is when I was in LA and you sent me a text on a Sunday morning. You're like, "I'm in the Spilt Milk studio. Get your ass along here now." So I dropped all my plans.
Yeah. And that was at East West.
It was East West, yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. That was really cool, and we're so glad that you were there.
Oh yeah, it was. It was like a spiritual walking into the big studio, Studio One, isn't it? I'm guessing. And that was the Spilt Milk studio. But the thing is, it's like, the Beach Boys, Frank Sinatra, everyone has recorded there. But I was like, it's the Spilt Milk studio. This is
it's like on Abbey Road. About 3 years ago to the day, I was recording at Abbey Road, and being a huge Beatle fan, that was holy ground. And it must have been a similar situation for you going to. I mean, Spilt Milk is Beatles quality, so there you go. I was also excited. So yeah, it's like I was just recording at Stag Street Studios, and I was super excited that that's the place where Tori Amos recorded Little Earthquakes. So again, that's the thing, is that all these studios, you never know what people are going to latch onto, and because they've had, every studio has had a huge variety of stuff, done in it. Some people look at Capitol as the Beach Boys studio. Some people look at it as the Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra studio. Some people look at it as the studio where, America made albums. That's the beautiful thing. It's like, East West has been everything from Spilt Milk, going all the way back to Mamas and the Papas, Classical Gas, all the way to Michael Jackson, so.
I'm starting to notice East West in films and documentaries now as well, because it was on the Michael Hutchins documentary. I'm almost certain it's the studio used at the end of That Thing You Do. When he records Spartacus on the... Yeah.
Yes.
So much history in that room.
Yeah. But that's the cool thing. When we were doing Echo in the Canyon, we were recording... We were in East West 2, which used to be United 2, and Michelle Phillips said this was the exact room that we auditioned for the label at. Right here where I'm standing is where, I was, and then Mama was there, and Denny and John, and that it's the amount of history in these rooms is unprecedented. It's beautiful.
Well, speaking of movies, 2 questions that I've asked a couple of other people during this, including Roger. Are you in the Sparks movie? And do you know when this Power Pop movie is finally happening?
I am not in the Sparks movie.
Okay, because I wouldn't be surprised if you were in the Sparks movie, and then I could just...
No. I'm not in the Sparks movie. I did watch it. at Sundance because Cindy had a movie in Sundance, and we had a subscription, so we watched it in Sundance, the streaming version, and it's amazing. And Todd Rundgren's in it, and it led to them collaborating, which is really cool.
Wow.
Power Pop movie, no idea. That's another mystery. You know, if there's one thing about Power Pop people is that they take their time, and Jason, and yeah, I mean, I don't know when that's going to be ready to go. You know what's crazy is that I met Ken Sharp because they needed a place to film Ken in the Valley. And he came to my studio and he looked at the wall and he saw everything from Sunflower to Hall & Oates to Todd Rundgren to, he's like, who are you? And since then, this is an interesting opposite. Ken has recorded close to 250 songs, yet he's only released a third. So he is like the massive hoarder of songs, and they're incredible songs and they need to be heard. And he actually has 2 35-song albums he's got planned and a 12-songer. So he's the most prolific guy I know. He writes at least 3 songs a week, and they're all great. And yeah, if you haven't checked out Ken Sharp, total Jellyfish material right there. Very cool.
Absolutely. Well, that's the one thing that I wish I could be out there more often, because the amount of people that I know out there who are prolific songwriters, and it would be such a great atmosphere to, give me a kick up the backside to be more prolific myself. So the fact though that we can do this online in some form is, it really is motivating for me. And I mean, the past few years, I'll be honest, have been difficult. So like I've realized that I've got half finished ideas that need to be done. And, the support that I get from a lot of people being all the way out here. I mean, you worked with Graham Marshall and you introduced me to him, and we've become friends because of that. And we got to see Linda Perhacs in one of the greatest gigs I've ever seen. That just blew. Okay, can I say it blew my tits off? I think that's fine.
Well, so here's the deal. LA is full of people that came here with dreams. And if there's one thing that's really cool about LA is that everybody sacrificed something to be here. So they work harder, especially the people that are not born here, like me, like Chris, like Caitlin Wolfberg, like, Amin, and all these other people that are like incredibly talented, and they're here for a reason. We're away from our families and we're working our asses off, because if there's one thing about LA is that things do happen here. And, I was playing a free jam at a Jewish deli when the director of Echo in the Canyon came in and saw me play and said, I want you to be in the movie. Well, at the time it was a record. But those things happen, Calling up Linda Perhacs and her coming over to my house and calling Chris and saying, Linda Perhacs is in my house. And he's like, bullshit. And like, get your ass over here. And he was out of town, and he came in and he couldn't believe it. And it was incredible working with her. Same thing goes with Emmett, Chris calling me, and all of a sudden I'm there playing bass in front of Emmett Rhodes, lots of things happen. And, it's not guaranteed. A lot of people come here and leave brokenhearted, but the way I looked at it was, I don't want to be like that. I actually have a quote. The meaning of life is having a good deathbed experience. And nobody wants to be that guy dying going, I wonder how different things would be if I would have moved to LA. Because I was worried that my situation was dire because of where I lived. Because Miami was a total, and it still is a tough town to make music in. And it was originally a 5-year plan to come out here and see how it goes. And I'm still here, and I'm not leaving.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, you hear that about, Blue moved out to LA as well. And, so many more. Eric Dover moved from Alabama to LA. And
Blue and I have something in common. I had a song called I'm Not Going to Move to LA. He had a song called I Won't Go Hollywood. And we both did, and it worked out really well for us. So, well.
Yeah, and you just recently wrote a song called Bliss Ascending. which was
it's
a
on my next
beautiful song.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? It's like the song is constantly, you know. It's really ascending, and and I was like, this is ascending constantly. Even when it's descending, it's ascending. Yeah. And I was like, bliss ascending. So I said I was the first person to ever name a progressive rock song after a Jason Faulkner tune, and he liked it. He liked it. It was very cool. So a lot of fun. You know, that's the thing. It's that even though I'm considered a prog rock guy, I'm still a power pop guy at heart. You know, same thing goes when, you know what? I'll never forget running into Jason Faulkner at a Yes concert. You know, that's secret sauce material, is that he loves, like, especially the album Drama, you know. And you can hear it in a lot of Jason's stuff that's like, ooh, there's some cool prog rock keyboards going on. Yeah. They put it in the movies as in 7/8, you know, that ending in that part in Running with the Lions Tonight or whatever, the crazy, you know, Robert Fripp guitars.
Yeah, the last song on.
Yeah. And then there's a
terrible. I should know this off by heart.
Yeah, that's right. On Can You Still Feel? There's so many prog rock stuff. You know, his love for synthesizers, some of his guitar sounds. I feel like some of his phrasing is very Peter Gabriel-like. You know, descending on this stubborn ledge. No. It's total, you know, Peter Gabriel vibes.
Jason is a genius. Sorry.
So cool. And, you know, Jason, you know, being a drummer, you know, it's like there's nothing more fun sometimes than playing Odd Times. So
Good Night, Sweet Night. There you go.
Night, Sweet Night is the best.
It is.
I love that album. That album is very underrated. You know, that's the problem, is the sophomore slump. You know, it's like people wanted, you know, people were so blown away with Author Unknown, and that one was more of a commercial and, you know, a little confusing at times. But I love that record. All of Jason's records have something really interesting to offer.
The 8-track version of Good Night, Sweet Night is because he, instead of the string arrangement in the middle, he does it with a guitar solo, and it's incredible. His demos are better than most people.
Oh yeah, man! I've got the 4-track years. I love that stuff. It's incredible. It's really, really cool what he could do. You know, and the fact that he couldn't beat the solo, from what I understand, he couldn't beat the solo on She Goes to Bed, so he used the solo from the 4-track and actually imported it into the computer, and that's how they did it. You know, that's the same solo from the 4-track version. And that's his guitar tone on the solo to She Goes to Bed is the distorted preamps on a Porta 4 or whatever, the Porta 2 Tascam. You know, I love that stuff. I remember, I'll never forget the Tape Op article on Jason Faulkner, where he talked about how he uses XLR to quarter-inch converters and plugs mics straight into compressors to record drums. Compressor pedals, Loco Box compressor.
There was, I think it was that Guitarist magazine where I read something that he was playing some gigs and they were not very well attended. And then he ended up on the cover of that magazine with his handsome face. And then a lot of women showed up after. Which I can get that. Yeah.
I always say this. One of the biggest mysteries on earth is why Jason Faulkner didn't become, you know, a huge star looking the way he does. And, you know, sounding the way he does and writing the way he does. And I actually pinpointed it to one thing. Where was the music videos? Why didn't he make music videos?
Yeah.
Why wasn't there a music video for I Live? Why was there a music video? What's with that Eloquence thing? You know, that little video for Eloquence that's like a promotional thing?
Oh, the video. Well, we talk about that. It was during our interview, which is like 2 hours long, and it's just general not willing to invest. I mean, that's why they called Electra Neglectra, wasn't it? Because they weren't willing to put the money into his into promotion and weren't prepared to give him a band and all that kind of thing, and thought that it would be better if he, went out solo, which is just insanity. I mean, what a babe! You would have that poster on your ceiling.
But I have a theory. Do you remember when Lifehouse first came out?
No.
Hanging on a Moment. When you finish this interview, go watch the video for Hanging on a Moment. That guy was styled to look like Jason, Jazzmaster, same haircut, same look.
Oh, wow.
And I remember when I first saw that video, I thought it was Jason.
Right. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to...
Hi, kitty.
Yeah. He's
the shitty kitty.
Yeah, no, this isn't the shitty kitty. This is Sunny, but he's just going to get in the way anyway, so I thought I'd bring him on camera.
I would say the blondes have trouble, hiding the fact that they just took crap because of their skin, their fur. But yeah, man, it was a real pleasure doing this song for Jellyfest, and I can't wait to watch it and take it in.
Yeah, and this gives you an idea of what all the interviews are like. They're all half an hour long and full of nonsense and full of fun. And I want to thank you for being a part of Jellyfest. And
it was a pleasure
for doing something. Not that anyone needs to find out who you are, because I'm sure everyone watching will certainly know who you are.
I've got a .com that needs to be updated, and I've got social media, and you could find. I think the best place to go is my Bandcamp, fernandoperdomo.bandcamp.com, and you'll see just how stupidly prolific I am. I just put out too much stuff, but still, people buy all of it at once. That just happened this week where somebody bought all of my stuff on Bandcamp, and it's $145 or something, and you get almost 100,000. You get well over 200 songs. It's a really cool thing. But there's lots of stuff up there, lots of variety. I just had a release date announced for the album with Carmen Apiece, which is coming out on September 24th. Mm-hmm. Looking out to C4 in November. And when Jellyfest happens, I'm actually going to release my Bedspring Kiss cover because it came out so good. I release everything I do. I go to Harry Fox and I do covers. I make sure that the artists get paid. And, from my measly 10 sales or whatever.
I've seen you open checks, and it's some of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Well, that's actually like, I've had some people say, hey, man, you should join Taxi, blah, blah, blah. You'll make real money. They think I'm really destitute. Those are the odd ones. Like, I get decent BMI checks. I get paid nicely to produce people. That's just because it's so shocking to see how little I make from this company. And it's like, why are they doing this? Why are they spending $1 to send 4-cent checks?
Yeah, it is quite funny. It's funny like Homer Simpson says, it's funny in a tragic way and tragic in a funny way, like when a clown dies. Yeah,
exactly. It's sad, but yeah, that's the funny thing. It's weird.
A couple of questions before you go. Yes. Who is the most famous person that you've bumped into in LA that you've never known before, just randomly?
Well, Ringo Starr at the Echo in the Canyon release party premiere. In person, Steven Tyler.
Oh, wow. Okay. And who is the most famous person to recognize you that hasn't previously worked with you? I'm going to pick up these names that you drop.
Oh God, that's you lost me at what hasn't worked with me, because like I had a weird experience when I met Steve Hackett and I introduced myself and he started going off on how good I am on a record we played together. And I'm like, this is your backstage. I'm supposed to be gloating over you, dude. Whatever. But no. I mean, it's not. That doesn't happen. I'm not that famous. I don't know. I got to think about that one.
Okay, and because I'm just always intrigued by this, what's the most weird animal you've seen in your backyard? Because LA is like insane.
Raccoons.
Right.
They're weird. They're not odd or they're not rare, but they're weird.
Uh-huh. Has one ever come into your house?
No. No, we're good with that. But yeah, my old studio had rats every once in a while. Being in Florida, we always hear about, being from Florida, we always have crocodiles and alligators in the yard, whatever.
Screw that. Yeah. Okay.
But, in LA, it's like feral cats, raccoons, possums.
Oh. I think I'd freak out if I saw a possum. A hedgehog came into my garden this weekend, so that was quite nice. I'm guessing you don't get many hedgehogs in LA.
Hedgehogs.
No.
Not that I notice.
Well, on that bombshell, I think we peaked about 5 minutes ago when you were talking about Ringo Starr, and then we started talking about hedgehogs and stuff. Okay.
Well, what a pleasure to be part of Jellyfest, and I can't wait to watch it.
Oh, well, look, thank you, Fernando. You've been incredibly generous. I can't wait to do more stuff with you and hopefully see you again, because we've seen each other a number of times now in person.
Yeah. I got to get back over there now that COVID's, let's not go there. Maybe I'll go back there soon. We'll see.
I was meant to be coming over in October. That ain't happening now. So hopefully next year. So I want to thank you again. And I want to thank everyone for continuing to tune into Jellyfest and keep an eye out for what is coming up next.
Love you guys.